So that water tower was built when none of the workmen were here, in between, like the turn of the century, because they lost the house, right? He lost it, but now Nicolasa was able to live there still. Lucky Baldwin didn't kick her out of the house. He let her stay, and there was always like a grandson or something. They had the two kids. So now we're coming into the temple, Casa Nueva they called it, and I'll tell you the story why it got that name. But as we walk this way towards the front of the house, you'll notice. Did you go to school in California? So do you remember how many missions there are? Because I forget when. Well, the kids don't always study. Yeah, it's okay.
I actually just got back from Santa Ynez.
You went where? Oh, you went to
Santa Ynez by Solvang.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Was that a good one?
Oh yeah, it's beautiful.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's an active parish too.
Oh, yeah.
When I got there was a mass.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, San Diego Mission was the first one, and there's 21 missions in California.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the first one. San Diego, founded in 1769 by Father Juniper and Sarah. So as we walk, you'll see that this is called the Mission Walkway because there's three sides, not the front, but all other sides of the property have the mission, various missions etched into the walkway. It is still here. Real great find. Yeah. So we just came from the Workman house. So life goes on after the death of William Workman. Nicolasa remained in the house, and you know, her grandsons lived with her, and her daughter still lived over in Montebello area. So, you know, life goes on. Well, let's fast forward to the 1920s when this house was built. What happened in that interim? Well, we had the Industrial Revolution was continuing on, which created a demand for, well, gasoline, oil, that kind of thing, because, you know, machinery and everything needed those things. So the Industrial Revolution continued to drive the oil. Then also real estate was booming out here in California back then, and there was another thing that plays into our story a little bit, and it still drives the economy today, and you might probably guess it. What's the big thing that drives one of the things that drives the economy here, especially in California, but really everywhere? The entertainment field, right? Movies?
Yeah.
Kind of was a big deal. Back then it was silent movies to begin with, but eventually then we got the talkies. So, you know, that kind of plays into our story because the 1920s is when all that happened. So to fast forward those 50 years in between, Nicolasa had the two children, but then Antonio Margarita had 11 children. 8 survived. So she had eight living children between FPF Temple and Antonio Margarita. So one of those children was Walter Temple, and that's whose home we're going to visit now. Okay? So let's go. You'll notice the little miniature millstones. This was everything in the house when he built this house. They wanted to honor their grandparents. And so Walter Temple. Now, how did Walter Temple get the money to build this house? Well, one of the things when he was living in Montebello, one of his oldest boy, Thomas, was 9 years old, and he was playing outside one day in the, you know, dirt, because, you know, that's the way it was back then. And all of a sudden, it had rained and he saw a puddle and it had an oil slick on it. And he runs into the house, Papa, we have oil on our property. And sure enough, they did. And of course, I grew up in Montebello, and our high school, we were called the Montebello Oilers. Well, what do you know? Because it's full of oil. Long Beach was full of oil.
Baldwin Hills.
What?
Baldwin Hills.
Yes,
Baldwin
Baldwin
Hills.
Hills. Brea, if you
Yeah.
go down to 57, you see the pumpers.
Mhm.
Fullerton has
Mhm.
pumpers. I mean, they're everywhere. This place is full of oil. So
Mhm.
anyway, boom, what did he do? Walter came back and bought back the house with his oil money. And so then he and his wife used it, and he had, he had 4 kids. So Walter's one of 8 living children, and then he had 4 kids. So the oldest boy and then the other, they were all like 2 years apart. They ended up living in that house and coming. Now they lived in Montebello, but they would summer over here, and that's not a lot of distance.
Yeah.
But back in the day, that's what you did. But if you look at the house, you can see lots of features on it. Come this way, you can see it
Oh,
from
look
here.
at Cantwell. Bishop Cantwell.
There's a lot of features in the house. It's called a Spanish Colonial Revival architecture style. But do you see the owl on the ends of those posts, that cross beam up there?
Yeah.
Yeah, carved owls. And then you see the balconies and the tile roof and the thick walls. So this is an adobe house also. And those are the hallmarks. A lot of wrought iron balconies, the tile roof, and the thick wall. So
Kind of look like Casa Romantica.
yeah, well, this was a very popular style.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was a popular style, and you can see little houses and big houses with this style.
Mhm.
Now, one of my favorite things is this patio has various things, and my favorite one is this. Look at this. It's from China, England. It's China. What do you call it? It's
China, yeah.
yes, it's pieces of china, and why did they do this? This was kind of a cool feature. Okay, when the house next door was, when they lived there, they didn't have a trash man that came and picked up their trash. They just had a big hole. They would dig a hole and put their trash. They didn't have the kind of trash we have today, like paper goods and cardboard and all that. It was a real different lifestyle, but they did have things like this. And they found these kind of things and they put them into the porch. And I think it's kind of a cool idea. Anyway, yeah, look at how old these cypress trees are. Yeah. And as you look out the front, that wasn't there. That building that you see, that's that El Encanto.
Oh.
It plays into the story, and I'll get to it just shortly. As we go in the house, I have to remind you, it's a museum, so no touching anything, and just look with your eyes. Yeah. It feels like you just want to sit down and